everybody. It is Dysautonomia Awareness Month, and that is the entire month of October. I am Stormy, and I have a type of dysautonomia called POTS. POTS stands for Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome. And basically, what it means is that when I stand up, my heart rate goes really fast and my blood pressure can sometimes drop. Because of that, I use a wheelchair. And I'll insert some photo or video somewhere here of me in my chair. Because I use a wheelchair, I want to talk about the process of getting a wheelchair as an ambulatory user in the United States on Medicaid. So I'm going to break this into three parts, and part one is going to be about preparation and self-advocacy. Before we get into this, I'm going to add a few disclaimers. Firstly, I am a patient. I am an experienced patient, but I am not a medical professional. I am currently in the process of getting my second custom chair. The first one was a custom ultralight with a power assist. I specifically have a Tylite Aero T with a smart drive power assist. I've been in this wheelchair since 2019, and this next one is going to be a complex rehab power chair. This process will vary some depending on your insurance plan and your area. This is how to get a custom ultralight or a power chair covered for my plan. I'm also going to assume that you have tried and failed other mobility aids and possibly even tried or have a heavy hospital style manual wheelchair before you're approaching your doctor with this. The process for those less supportive or lower level mobility aids is very similar to this one. However, it is not going to be the exact same. There's a lot more involved with a custom ultralight or a power chair than there is for like a rollator or a cane or a walker or a heavier non-ultralight, non-custom wheelchair. So this is also from the perspective of somebody like me who has some level of ambulation left and some level of mobility left, but maybe you've had an exacerbation of symptoms or a slow decline of your mobility over time. I want to stress that this doesn't mean that you need a wheelchair for every single bit of ambulation that you do, but it does mean that a wheelchair would support you and make it so that you can actually do these tasks of daily living while in the chair. That came out completely wrong. That's weird. Whatever. Okay, so step one is preparation. And what I want you to do is I want you to sit down and over the course of like 3 days or maybe even a week, I want you to take note of every single time that you do something differently, like you sit instead of stand for something like chopping vegetables for cooking or cooking altogether or brushing your teeth. How long can you actually stand? How long can you actually walk? And how long can you sit in a position such as in an office chair? I want you to make an honest, can't think of the word, hold on. I want you to make an honest account of how your limitations are affecting you in your daily life. It's also really helpful to make note of adaptations that you already do to make up for your mobility struggles. I suggest doing this over the course of a few days or even a week in order to have real world examples and real world data in order to present the professionals that you'll be working with along this journey. I'm going to be really honest, it might be depressing for you to do this if you have never done this before. That's okay. You have to be honest both with yourself and with your professionals in order to be able to get the equipment that will help you live a fuller life. The purpose of this list is to help you advocate for yourself with family members if you're a minor, doctors who will be treating you and doing referrals, and the professionals who will be helping you along this journey. One thing to note is that a wheelchair and a power chair are not covered by Medicare or Medicaid unless you need them within your home. So what I want you to do is I want you to focus your energies on detailing how a mobility aid could help you in your home. So we've already covered a few questions such as how long can you stand, how long can you walk, how long can you sit in an office chair with your legs down? Another few questions that you might want to ask yourself: do you do any tasks in another room than the one they're traditionally used for? Do you brush your teeth in your bedroom because it's the closest place you can find to sit down? Do you take baby wipe baths because you can't stand long enough in order to take a shower, at least not often enough? Do you delay or avoid doing things because of your mobility struggles? These can be things like brushing your teeth or going to the bathroom, or delaying making or eating food because of your mobility struggles. Do you use a shower chair, or do you sit on the floor of the shower because you don't have one? If you have used another mobility aid in the past, like a cane or a rollator or a walker, what issues have you had and why are those not useful in your daily life? And the final thing to think about before you approach your OT, which I'll get into in a few moments, is what terrains do you need your wheelchair to be able to handle on a general basis? If you use public transportation, then you know you're going to be on sidewalks that may not be well maintained. Do you have carpet in your home? Is there dirt outside your home, or is your yard not well maintained in general? These are things that aren't critical to actually being approved for a wheelchair, but they do influence the decision of what equipment you will get in the future. All right, and that's on to step 2, which is self-advocacy. So you're going to take that list that you just made and you're going to take it with you to all of your doctor's appointments related to this mobility aid in the future. I personally like to use Google Docs because it's on my phone. I can access it anywhere and I don't have to worry about printing things out and carrying them with me. It's especially important to have this list on you if you have any issues with memory or concentration. Being able to remember what your limitations are in specific while you are seated in front of a doctor or at a occupational therapist office is harder than it sounds. It's okay to refer back to your list, which has real world examples, in order to better communicate with the professionals that you will be working with. If it would be helpful to you, I suggest bringing someone along with you to your doctor's appointments who is ready, able, and willing to support you in this endeavor. If you are read as a woman or femme presenting or another marginalized group, such as a person of color or visibly queer, it can make a world of difference in being taken seriously to have somebody who is male, white, able-bodied, or who appears to be these things in order to back up, reword, and or just repeat exactly what you're already saying to your doctors. No, this should not be necessary. It's pretty upsetting that this is what is necessary, and it may not be necessary for you. Only you know your doctors. But if you have a doctor, especially a primary care physician, who has put you down or been questionable about how your limitations are affecting you, definitely bring somebody with you. All right, and now we're on to part 2, which is what is the step-by-step process of getting a wheelchair on Medicaid? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to schedule an appointment with your primary care physician. Now, depending on your plan, this may not be necessary, and depending on you, it may not be a doctor. It may be a physician's assistant. At this appointment, you're going to get a referral for an occupational therapist. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be an occupational therapist, but the ideal would be to get a referral to an occupational therapist who is associated with a hospital and who has a rehab center. These are the people who will be most equipped to help you in getting a chair and getting appropriate equipment that will help you. A couple of alternatives are a physical therapist who is familiar with seating and mobility, or an assistive technology professional who is usually going to be with your durable medical equipment or DME provider. The first time I did this, I went and got a referral, and then I was sent over to the DME for the seating evaluation. Now, I had an ATP who worked with me. The process took a couple of hours, and we figured out what I needed. I had already done a lot of research before this, and we got it ordered, and that was it. So after you get your referral, you're going to go ahead and schedule and see the occupational therapist, the physical therapist, or the ATP. This meeting usually takes a couple of hours for an actual seating and mobility assessment because they don't know how many different types of equipment you're going to want to try, or cushions or backs or things of that nature. Take your list with you and make sure that you refer back to it if necessary. They're going to ask you some questions about your mobility and your general daily activities. What they're looking for is more along the lines of your ADLs, or activities of daily living. This is not like stuff you do for hobbies or what you do for work. This is how are you handling grooming yourself, so taking a shower, hygiene, cooking and eating, and different things of that nature. After you've discussed that, they're going to make their recommendations to you. And I want you to know that you do have options. For me, when I had got my first chair, they recommended to me at that time to get a complex rehab power chair. At the time, I did not have the ability to handle a chair of that nature. That was both due to internal and external factors like internalized ableism and a lot of grief about what that meant for me. So because of that, I did not take their original recommendation for a complex power chair, and I advocated for myself to get an ultralight manual with a power assist. Now, this has worked well for me for the last 4.5 years, but it does have limitations, or rather, I have limitations while I'm in it. And a lot of those have to do with how my sitting tolerance is, because I can only sit for about an hour before I'm in a lot of pain. After they make their recommendations, they will bring you equipment to try and to look at and to determine what features you want and don't want on your chair. With the manual, they brought over a folding chair and an ultralight folding chair. I believe it was the Tylite Aero X, but I'm not sure. I don't remember the folding one. There's a folding one, and it was that one. I did not want a folding because I had heard that there's a lot of energy lost in pushing with a foldable chair like that. So instead, what I wanted and what I got was a ultralight rigid chair with a folding back. So now my wheels pop off and the back folds down, and I'm able to fit it in pretty much every trunk I've ever tried, or in a single seat. Testing the equipment and the cushions may or may not come at a later date at a different appointment. Another thing they're going to do during this appointment is they're going to take measurements of your body. Custom chairs are made and manufactured and set up for your measurements. A secondhand custom chair is potentially going to be better than a hospital chair in a pinch. However, if it doesn't fit you as well, it's not going to be optimal for your ability to self-propel. They'll also likely do some range of motion and strength testing exercises just to see what your limitations are and what things need to be considered and justified for your chair. So after that appointment, you may need to schedule with a representative of a specific brand in order for them to bring out equipment to your home for you to test it. The first time around, I did not need to do this because I knew no matter what size my manual wheelchair ended up being, I was going to fit through doorways. There are very few doorways I am not able to fit through. This is edge to edge, hand room to hand room, 25 inches wide. And that's great. That's fantastic because I'm able to fit through standard 30-inch doors. I believe the only door I haven't been able to fit through is this super narrow door that's a pocket door in my mom's house that leads to her bathroom, which is not that big of a deal because there is another bathroom that I am able to fit into. So this time around, I did want to bring the power chairs into the place where I'm living now in order to actually try them out and make sure that I can fit through various doorways. I am considering a couple of different ones, and we'll see which one I end up with. If you don't need to trial any more equipment, what will happen is that your professional who helped you, your occupational therapist, physical therapist, or ATP, will write a report summarizing your visit and detailing your needs. And then comes the fun part where it goes back and forth from one place to another, and it can be lost, communication can be lost during any of these steps. So your OT will write the report, they'll send it off to your doctor. Your doctor will review the report and sign it and then send it back to your occupational therapist or your ATP. Now, it does help a little bit when you're working with an ATP because that report then gets sent back directly to the DME. So the OT will then take that paperwork, the signed paperwork that they received, and they'll send it over to the DME if they're not associated with them. The DME will then take that letter again and some more paperwork, including your order form, and they will then send all of that information over to the insurance company for approval. The process of insurance approving the order can take some time. It can be as short as a few weeks or as long as several months. The more communication that you have between you and your DME, the better and shorter this wait will be. So then after your insurance approves the equipment, they'll send the approval to the DME. The DME will send the order off to whichever manufacturer you are working with for your equipment, such as Permobil if it's Tylite, or Quantum if it's a quantum rehab chair. And then you wait for your order to get manufactured and shipped to the DME. Your DME will contact you when the equipment is in order to schedule either a pickup or delivery, as well as a time for instruction of how to use your new equipment safely. And now we're into part 3, which is the pro tips. So these tips, in addition to the preparation stage that we talked about earlier, these tips will help during the order process, delivery, as well as something to do after you've gotten your equipment. So the first thing I want to touch on is that if you're going to be using your manual wheelchair every day, you need a script from your doctor for what is called a K000, maybe another zero? I think it's a 0005, but it might be a 00005. Anyways, a K5 chair, which is the category of wheelchairs that are custom, ultralight, and fall under that sort of category. Pre-manufactured chairs, such as heavy hospital chairs that you can get for cheap off of Amazon, and more expensive but still cheaper lightweight chairs, are not optimized for pushing. Most of the time, they won't have an adjustable center of gravity. The measurements will be a specific way, and it's just not ideal for pushing yourself along. Pushing a wheelchair is already hard on the joints, and pushing in an unoptimized chair is even harder and can cause injury if it's done for a prolonged period of time. This is especially important if you already have pre-existing joint issues, especially in your shoulders, elbows, or wrists. So you definitely want to make sure that you, your doctors, and your ATP or other professionals are all on the same page about it being for full-time use. Pro tip number 2 is to request to see the completed order form before it is submitted to your insurance. Otherwise, you could also request to see it before it is sent for orders so that you know what's been approved and what has not been approved by your insurance company. This is the first opportunity that you have to catch errors in the equipment that you have requested, has been discussed, and should be being on order. When I ordered my manual chair, I skipped this step. And unfortunately, what it meant was that I did not get the clothing guards that I needed, and as such, my chair doesn't work quite as well as it should. Now, some of these are just honest mistakes, and some of these are the fact that it's a long appointment, and sometimes questions can be had at the end of the appointment where they forget specific details or things of that nature. You're the one who's going to be using this equipment for at least the next 5 years, unless you have a significant medical change. And because of that, you're the one who cares the most about this being correct. So tip 3 is you may need to call in every few weeks while you're waiting for the insurance process to be completed. You may feel like you're being annoying. I feel like I'm being annoying when I do this, but it helps me feel more secure that this process is definitely still ongoing and it hasn't been dropped or lost in the cracks or somehow lost to the void that is fax machines, apparently. Once insurance approves your chair, the process goes quite a bit faster because a lot of these things don't take that long to produce. A manual chair is actually going to take longer to produce because most of the time the frames are custom made. With a complex power chair, a lot of those components are already pre-made and are just stuck on or your chairs resized, or whatever the case may be. Pro tip number 4 is more of a warning than a pro tip. If you are attempting to get a power assist approved, and this is your very first wheelchair ever, and you're not even haven't even used one at home or anything like that, then I need you to understand that insurance may not approve it on the first go. Definitely ask for it because you never know. However, they may not do it because a lot of insurance companies have a requirement that new wheelchair users use their manual chair for a year before they will pay for a power assist. Now, if this is not your first manual chair and you have used a manual chair in the past, such as you've bought a cheap chair off of Amazon and you've just been making it work, make sure that you tell your professionals who are doing the ordering and this paperwork for insurance about that, because it will count towards that year. What am I on? 5? I think it's 5. So pro tip number 5 is a pro tip and a warning. When it is time for delivery or pickup, you've gotten your chair, it's in your hands, and you're ready and raring to go. What I need you to do for your sake is to review the actual equipment, test it and make sure it works, make sure that everything that you discussed was on there and installed on it correctly. And this is so important. If something is wrong, if it's the wrong make and model, if it's the wrong chair altogether, where you were under the impression that you were ordering an ultralight wheelchair and they've handed you a lightweight pre-made wheelchair, do not sign for it. Do not sign for it. You will have to give the equipment back, which does suck. And I understand how heartbreaking it can be, but it is so much harder to fix this issue after you have agreed and taken responsibility for this equipment that they have given you. Pro tip number 6 is also, before signing, review the actual order form that's in that delivery information to make sure that everything on there is accounted for as you have discussed it. The reason why I bring this up is because recently I had my smart drive in for repair. Now, smart drives, because they're very proprietary, they have to actually be sent back to the manufacturer in order to be fixed. They cannot be fixed at a local location. So I was expecting this. It had just completely stopped working. I was expecting to either get my smart drive back, the same exact one, or to get a new one. Now, I made the mistake and I didn't look at my delivery information. I looked at the power assist, saw that it was my original smart drive. It has some distinctive features, and signed away and left. And about a couple of weeks later, my paperwork falls from where I'd put it, and I look down and I see that I've been billed for a brand new power assist that I did not receive. It has taken multiple months. It's, as far as I'm aware, it's still not fully dealt with. It's taken multiple months and many, many phone calls in order to get this rectified. Now, the only reason that I'm super concerned about this is, one, if I was supposed to receive a new power assist, give me the power assist. 2, if it was an accident, my insurance got billed. When the insurance got billed, they then had something on file saying that I had just gotten a new power assist, and I knew that I was coming up for a new chair, and I did not want that to be messed up because of this accident. As of right now, last I heard, they said that it was an accident, that they had never seen this happen before, and that they were going to be requesting to send a refund to my insurance company in order to rectify the situation. And finally, the biggest pro tip that I can have is to enjoy your new equipment. After you've scheduled the equipment delivery or pickup, what I suggest you do is, for the next day or a few days later, depending on how your tolerances are, schedule something that will bring you joy that you have either really struggled with or simply have not been able to do because of your mobility struggles. That can be something big like a zoo or an aquarium or a theme park, but can also be something as simple as going to the library or going and spending time at a park with your kids, or even just going and running around a mall and window shopping. Whatever popped into your mind just now when I said, go do something that you haven't been able to do, go do that. If it is at all possible, go do that. The possibilities and freedoms that you have just opened up will make a huge difference in your life. The freedom that you have just received is a gift, and you deserve to celebrate that. And lastly, I'm going to touch on just be gentle with yourself. Sometimes it can be hard making these transitions. And even if your mobility was a slow decline and one day you just sort of woke up and realized how small your life has become, it's okay to have complicated feelings about that. It's okay to have joy or sadness or grief or anger, any number of feelings about this new transition and this new phase of your life. So yeah, that's all I have for today about this. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this process, and I will either do my best to answer them from what I know, or I will get a hold of my occupational therapist, who is amazing, and I will ask them questions, or the ATP, or whoever I need to ask. Just make sure that you, I don't even know where I was going with that. I know. Hold on. I don't know where it went though. The thought train, it went. So remember to like and subscribe and turn on the notifications for any new uploads that I have. I'm a lot more active over on Instagram and on TikTok, but YouTube is the best for these long form kind of videos. I'm going to include what I can on TikTok and compress this down as much as possible in order to make it more acceptable for the short form content. Please share this with your loved ones who are also new to the situation and may be concerned for what may come. I promise that there's life after receiving your mobility aid, and I promise it's going to be so much better because of that. And I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you soon. Bye!